Hey guys, I just wanted to take a quick second and talk through a custom junction we just finished in our shop. I recently built this junction for someone named Jeremy in Canada, and while I have it here, I thought I would just explain to you how these junctions kind of work and answer some common questions that seem to come up along the way. So you can see it here beside me. We have Jeremy's junction here. And basically, if you look at this thing just as a whole complete box, it can be quite confusing because there are a lot of jacks, there's a lot of labels, there's a lot going on. And that is actually the case. There is quite a bit happening here, but it is a lot more simple than it might actually seem and a lot less intimidating than it might actually seem. And I wanted to explain one of these junctions for you today. Essentially, what you're going to do when you have a custom junction like this is try and consolidate a bunch of different junction boxes, patch bays, features into one box. So instead of looking at this junction as one complex unit, you should actually look at it as a bunch of different pedals and patch bays that are enclosed and housed into one box, one physical location. So in the long run, having a custom junction will actually save you money if you're consolidating a bunch of pedals, and it will save you space on your pedal board. And lastly, power taps on your power supply, because everything can be powered in the one box. So let's go through Jeremy's really quickly, and I'll kind of explain and show you how this actually works. So we're gonna break Jeremy's box up into sections. The first section we have here is the input section. You can see input labeled here, and Jeremy will plug his guitar into the bottom, and this input section is buffered, and then he will send out to his board and his tuner. So that is the first pedal or patch bay in this junction box, a buffered input with a split to an always on tuner and then to his first effect. Jeremy can then come back after his last dry effect or wherever he wants to insert this audition point, which is the next section. The top jack is the input jack, which goes to send, and then we have return going to out. This audition spot can be used either to insert his amp's effects loop for the 4-cable method, or he can use it to actually try out a new pedal without ripping up his pedal board. As an example, he might have an overdrive or a preamp that he wants to insert into his signal chain, but he doesn't want to have to really commit to it yet because he doesn't know if he likes it or not. So you can use the audition spot at a predetermined section in your signal chain and insert that pedal. So now we have the input section, which is a buffered split with an always on tuner out, and we have the audition section. The next section after that is actually a stereo return with summing and isolation. That's kind of the next pedal. So after Jeremy's last wet effect, he can come into left in and right in stereo, and he can send out of amp left and amp right over here. And this essentially means that Jeremy can run his stereo rig. He can sum that stereo signal down to mono or dual mono and run out to his amps. There is one last section which is really cool and something that Jeremy wanted custom for his box, and that is a cab sim that goes to XLR outs. The thing that makes this quite cool is the stereo returns from his last pedal, and then the amp outputs is one section with summing. Then he also, at the same time, can send a separate loop to his cab sim in stereo, but summing does not affect this output. So he can essentially run something like a Strymon Iridium in stereo after the sends to his amps, and then his Iridium comes back to the box and runs stereo XLR outputs to his recording interface or to front of house. Again, the summing does not affect this. If nothing is plugged into these send and return jacks for his cab sim at the very top here, signal is normalized and sent through to the XLR outputs with nothing plugged in here. This basically means that whatever his last wet effect will go to the 1/4 inch jack outputs, it will also go to the XLR outputs as well. So this means he can run with or without a cab sim, depending on what he plugs in. but he will always have access to running a cab sim in stereo to XLR outputs only. The last thing he has is a master mute, and this allows him, obviously, to be able to mute his signal whenever he wants and get access to that tuner without making any noise. So that is the breakdown of a custom junction. Instead of it being one huge confusing box, it's actually just sections of patch bays and features that you can determine as someone that's needing a custom junction, what feature sets you want and where they end up in your signal chain. Hopefully that's cleared a few things up. If not, maybe you just enjoyed looking at Jeremy's custom junction and how he plans on using this on his pedal board. I hope that was helpful. Put your questions below, and we'll see you next week for another video on the Goodwood Audio YouTube channel.